And as always, my job here is just to bring you the best coming out of scholarship. Today, episode takes us the world of addiction recovery, authority, and spiritual transformation. 3 topics that, could really affect anyone in our society. We're going to look together at a fascinating research by SC Sales titled Authority, Recovery, and Redemption. It's a really careful of Alcoholics Anonymous, AA for short. So first up, what's the central question behind paper? Why are we about AA at all? So here's what's interesting. Liz isn't jumping in to criticize, cheerlead for AA. Nope. Instead, the core is deceptively simple. What does AA claim be? What kind of system is it? It's huge. If you, someone you love, ever dealt with addiction, probably know that success or failure in recovery can mean everything. And when we talk about methods or that shape people's lives, looking under the hood and asking how their central ideas work is a pretty big deal. How does sales get into this? What's the approach here? The paper puts AA's own front and center instead of flattening AA into a caricature or conversely, just praising it based on touching stories. Say gets nitty-gritty with AA's foundational texts. That means the big book, as it's called, which is kind of like the Bible of the Movement Plus. And I love this as a historical nugget. The author digs up the original manuscript and sets it against the modern 4th editions changed over years. What stayed same and why? The goal to look at AA's core structure and its claims, how it defines the traps of addiction, how it imagines recovery, how it talks about spiritual change, and maybe most intriguingly, what of authority This is interesting. Sales isn't trying to nitpick at editing differences or quote mine isolated sentences. Instead, the whole method is to see if AA's continuity, its system, hangs together. How does its description of the problem of addiction tie to its solution? How do its rituals and lead to what it calls redemption? What role does authority, that is, who gets to claim expertise or truth, play inside this structure? Is it just tradition and testimony, or is it something deeper? You as a listener, why does this matter? Maybe you're skeptical of AA, you swear by it, or maybe you're just curious. It's easy to get caught up in debates about, does it work? But Sales is kind of refreshingly saying, let's just make sure we know what AA is, structurally, before we start throwing stones or bouquets at it. Something to be said for slowing down and letting a system explain itself on its own terms, right? Think all the places in life where we jump to a verdict before really listening. After this careful text-based approach, you get a picture AA as a system that first centers around a very specific of thinking about the human condition. The problem in AA's texts isn't just addiction in the chemical sense. It's deeper, involving the self, willpower, to a higher power, the big book, out the 12 steps as both a structure and process, one that requires admitting powerlessness, making amends, and embracing spiritual transformation. Sales's comparison old and new of AA's texts, the same underlying holds the tweaks and edits over years, don't change the backbone. That is, conceptual framework of surrender, self-inventory, spiritual renewal. There's something especially interesting and maybe a bit about how AA kind of mixes these strong claims to authority. It offers a step-by-step answer while also insisting no one needs to believe the same way. Everyone has to admit something bigger than themselves. But what that something is, there's flexibility. There's a kind of paradox. AA is both strict and strangely open-ended. So wrapping this up, what does it mean for you? Maybe you're thinking about finding support for someone close to you, or maybe you work in mental health, or heck, maybe you're just fascinated by questions of authority and personal change. Sales's point is, look, before we approve or dismiss AA, we need to know what are talking about this at taking anything on faith. It means giving ideas a fair hearing on their own terms,